I was looking to see where this courtesy light mounts, and I noticed that I knew it was in this general area. I also noticed that looking underneath here, there is a screw on one side and no screw on the other side. So I looked in, and it appears that that courtesy light slides underneath the ashtray support, ashtray shield, and there's a screw that lines up, and I found this screw in my kit. It's the same head. Focus. There we go. Same Phillips head, same little washer head. It's just a different color. I'll get to touch it up later, but at least I know where the courtesy light housing goes. So as it should be, with power to the main power line, but with the key in the off position, we have courtesy lights. A courtesy light there pointing down, and a glove box light, which I'll call it courtesy light of sorts. So moving on. One other thing, I did take a file and remove the paint on the inside surface of the hole where that snaps into. Okay, just to the left of the fuse block is a grommet that goes, out to the other side of the firewall. This yellow lead for the convertible top, this is the power to the switch. It is gotten from what appears to be a fusible link on the firewall in the edging compartment. So I will route this wire, yellow wire, through that grommet and hold off connecting it, but at least it'll be over there for me to look at. So I've connected the switch for the power brake, for the parking brake down there. Connected one end of the harness into a tab there underneath where it says parking brake, logically enough. This bulb will pop into the back of the gauge cluster, and so when you press on the pedal, the light goes on because that switch is now extended. And when the brake is up, that gets pushed up, it breaks the circuit, and the light goes off. So I need to get a replacement. Part of the reason it's not springing back is that the parking brakes aren't hooked up in the rear yet, and then this needs a new spring to pull it back and hold it. So one less harness, on to the next one. Well, my lovely artistic wife, in her steady hand, used a chrome paint pen, and I think it looks great. Really happy with that. So it's time to put the gauge set back together. Thanks to some knowledgeable, friendly folks on one of the Facebook forums, I now know that little wire harness is specifically for the clock. And it makes perfect sense. That screws to the back, which energizes the electromagnet, which I've tested, so we're rotating the second hand there. And so that connector with the gray goes to the circuit of dash headlight related, headlight energized bulbs. These both work. I've tested that. They snap into those holes to illuminate the clock. And this is the ground. It goes to a screw. And then that connector down there is the one that is connected directly to the battery, so that it is always on to always keep the clock running. So I can put that together and install that into its location here. I've got everything but the screws now put in on the gauge assembly here. Everything is screwed down now, reattached. One of the things I've gone through is I've indicated now which bulbs are supposed to plug into which places. H are all of those dashboard illumination run by the headlight switch. Turn is for the blinker. The temp, got the brights indicator, got the brake, parking brake on indicator. Up here we have battery / ammeter, and then oil pressure indicator. And then I'll be referring to this diagram out of the manual, the shop manual, that talks about, for instance, the ammeter connection is, here we go. Ammeter connection is pink with double black stripes and a brown wire, and I found that one. And the oil pressure is just a solid pink with a dark blue. I found that one. So on and so forth. I'll be able to identify which of the, and I'll show you what I'm dealing with. Some of these were marked, some were not. Anything with a gray wire on it is, like I said, an H light bulb. Some of these have got tape on them. That's for the gas gauge, that right angle connector. So I'll make sure I've got all of the bulbs identified, and then I'll lay a towel over this opening, lay the whole dash gauge assembly, and plug everything in before inserting it into the opening of the dash. You can see back up in there, because I was able to get the speakers closer to the dash, they were fitting behind the, back up in there. All right, so now I will reinstall the HVAC control. HVAC all back together, including the wire that opens or changes the temperature. If I were to move this, then there is a damper door behind me that is getting moved as well. It's off of that cable, which is black. There. That cable there routes into the heater box, HVAC, duct plenum, whatever. All right, I think I'm ready to see if all the lights come on before I put all of the bulbs, before I put the ductwork back in. Well, this doesn't happen very often, but new parts for the LeMans. That is a new seal for the steering column down where it passes through the firewall in the footwell. And this is a new courtesy light harness. The wire and the little contact on the end, the brass contact, had broken on mine. I couldn't find the contact. So this will just go in place, in line. This connects to ground, or this connects to the ground circuit that is actuated by opening and closing of doors. And then this is the hot lead, and it fits in a chain of other hot leads for the power that's on all the time, like the clock and the other the glove box light, etc. So where are we now? Well, we've got the ball vents installed on both sides. That one is hooked to the two 90-degree elbows underneath there. And I started to install the main ductwork, but discovered that it will block the access to installing the glove box. So the glove box goes in now, and then we will come back to putting in this last piece of ductwork. So I've got these clip nuts, speed nuts, wish I'd look up what they are, installed here and here, and they came out of my stash. There are on the back side of a hole here and a hole over there, and two on the top. They're flat nuts, sheet metal nuts that are attached to the cardboard. So I'm going to get those to line up in here and in here. That should allow the door to screw to these two at the same time as allowing the glove box, because there are clearance holes here for those. Yeah, so the glove box door's in, but I did notice that I'm missing two bumpers up there. I can get the glove box door to latch. Dirty fingers on cream. So look at that. It is a dash pretty much put together. So now I'll just get underneath and install that final piece of ducting. And other than the flex hose that fits behind here, which I will take a measurement of what I need, it's the end of that diameter. The felt, there's a little felt block supposed to be on each side to hold this, keep it from rotating. This one had both of its little felt blocks. I could only find one loose one here. We're going to go with one for the time being and see how it works. All right, those two vents are now installed. So we're going to call it pretty close to being done. Like I said, I've got that flexible duct that I got to buy. Measured at 3 1/4. A few little odds and ends here. First of all, I got the hose. I removed this, was able to slide the 3 1/4. It just barely fit. I did a round of duct tape to make sure I don't pull it off as I'm connecting it to the end of the piece of ductwork there. The bumpers for the glove box showed up. I installed those. Definitely easier to install them without the ductwork there. That is now latching. And then I also went ahead and installed the bumpers on the ashtray. That one I had to take the ashtray out. I had to take the ashtray housing out, and that allowed me to reach behind with the needle nose pliers and pull the tangs on the back side of those bumpers to get them to go through the hole and stay. And then while I was at it, I installed the gasket that is on the other side. There's a plate that screws to there. Gasket's installed, the plate's reinstalled, and then this plastic guard is over top of it all. So onward, and finally back to the ductwork, getting it installed. That should be the last piece under the dash. At some point, if I choose, I may install, I have a gauge cluster that would go underneath there, but not a priority now, not something to get me back on the road. So the forums say get a 3 1/2 for this piece of ducting. I had measured both, or this piece of hose. I had measured the end of the ducting. It measured 3 1/4. I had measured the end of the other side of this vent. It measured 3 1/4. So while it is a very snug fit, 3 1/4 is possible. 3 1/2 would have been easier, but 3 1/4 is possible. And it fits on there snugly, so it's not going to just vibrate off. There's plenty of work to be done on the replacement steering wheel. That's the original one. It's missing chunks. What We're going to call the dash good to go.